to see you.
Same here.
What made you decide that you wanted to adapt all things sea soup here? Shari, maybe we'll start with you. What was the element that made you think, wow, we need to make a movie out of this book?
Well, we've always wanted to, we live in New York City, but we have a house in the country. And we always wanted to, up in the Hudson Valley, which is this very beautiful, but very kind of amazing place with wild nature, but also like crazy weather. And the Headless Horseman was written about that area. So it's been very inspirational for the art. We wanted to do a movie about the Hudson Valley. And then Bob read in our local newspaper about a book.
I read about the book and I liked what I read about it, and I picked it up and I fell in love with it. And then Harry read it, and it started getting national attention, and it started getting great reviews in New York Times and here, there, and everywhere. And I contacted the writer and I said, I love your book. I want to make a movie in this neck of the woods. Would you consider meeting with us? And she loved our movies, by chance, and we hit it off.
And she lived, in the book takes place in the same town where we lived, and she lived in that town as well. So it was all very serendipitous. Yeah.
It's a small world.
Exactly.
So did you consult with Elizabeth Brundage on set? Did you want to have your own touch, just a little bit of your vision when you filmed?
We didn't really consult with her. She gave us such a beautiful novel, and she knew a lot about the filmmaking process. She actually went to film school. Besides being a writer, and so she understood what goes into an adaptation, and she gave us the freedom and trust to do it, and she was a pleasure. She came to set. She loved, meeting the actors. She really was very excited about the casting.
When we told her that Amanda was playing the role of Catherine, she said she got chilled because when she was writing the book, it was Amanda's face that she saw for Catherine. Yeah. So it was just like this perfect, I think we really saw eye to eye on the material.
Yeah, that's what I read as well. I was like, what kind of witchcraft is that? Because she thought of Amanda, and now you casted Amanda without even knowing it. It's crazy, right? It's all very supernatural.
It is. I guess she put a lot of that energy in the character script. In the way she brought that character to life. That it just made Amanda such a natural fit.
So how did the casting process go for you?
Well, it's funny because Amanda was very just someone we loved, and we loved, wanted her. And once we got her, that was a no-brainer. It was a little harder for George because my first choice was James Norton, and I had been a big fan of his from his British television shows like Happy Valley and Grand
And he was the first actor we met with for this movie, I think, for the whole movie.
Okay. He was the first actor we met with and our first choice, and we loved him. We got along great. And then he became unavailable because of the Nevers. So we were like, who are we going to pick? And then it took forever. We kept going through actors and trying to find the right one. And one day my phone rang and it was like, James just became available. They're pushing his show. He has a window. And we were like, we're in. So it was a miracle. He came back to us.
It's really crazy. The whole casting process is it's a big miracle.
It was.
It really is. It's
wow. I also read that the cast and crew heard weird noises and felt quite a strong atmosphere in the house. Is that why you chose that house? Did you feel a supernatural presence? Are you believers of supernatural at all, actually?
Well, we didn't really choose it for that reason. In fact, it was sometimes disruptive. I mean, we had to stop shooting several times, send someone up to the attic to see what was going on because there were odd noises that interrupted our shoot day. But Amanda started getting very intrigued and offered a reward to anybody who would spend the night in the house once we wrapped. Nobody took her up.
Nobody did, and it was a pretty handsome, it was a fair amount of money, and nobody took her up on it. So, but the house was perfect. We didn't want a traditional haunted-looking house like, Disneyland, scary, or Victorian. We wanted a house that was like an old farmhouse as it was described in the book, with a big, huge, beautiful barn off the road. It was a challenge. We went through hundreds of farms before we found the right one.
Then again, it was perfect because this one was truly haunted, I think. So
it's also on a street called Skunk's Misery Road, which is just like, that's really the name of the street it's on, which is like the perfect name for a scary house.
It is. We just spent the night in this house.
Well, definitely not until they clean the bees out.
Shari's like, no.
There's honeybees living in the walls.
He's so.
I think I was more afraid of the bees than the ghosts.
I don't think you would have spent the night in the house, Bob.
I love that house.
It was beautiful. I mean, there was something really special about it, but it was also a little bit creepy.
Yeah, I was sad to say goodbye to it. I think the ghosts could be cool, you know, like if you find a way to live with them, why not?
It's cool for a short moment, and then time to go. I absolutely adored what I think was a very raw and real portrayal of so many different women, Catherine, Justin Willis, and many of whom are trying to set themselves free from their husbands, from their parents, from the society. Was that important for you as well? Is it something that you always keep in mind and try to show when making a movie?
Absolutely. And I definitely, in this, I love that Elizabeth created all of these amazing female characters who were trying in one way or another to find their voice, and who were supporting each other in strange ways too, unexpected ways. It's funny because Elizabeth had said at one point, I think every woman has a little bit of Catherine and a little bit of Justine.
Yeah.
And I thought that really touched me, because Justine is very confident and very strong in her opinion, and Catherine is finding her way and a little bit more insecure about her opinion. And I feel like I've had both of those women inside me my whole life.
Catherine has an eating disorder, and everyone keeps on talking about that, and no one really pays attention to her emotions, you know. And that's something that was truly interesting, because that's something that happened to women throughout the years, you know what I mean? It's always back to being a woman and not actually feeling emotions like a regular human being.
It's like women are gaslit, like they gaslight them, like you're not really feeling that feeling, you don't really see that thing, you don't really.
Exactly.
And I feel like her Catherine's eating disorder, they used that against her for anything that was upsetting her or anything that was not right in her life. It was because she didn't have enough calories. Obviously,
you studied a lot of Emanuel Swedenborg, and I did too after watching the movie. I didn't know who he was. The movie got me fascinated by his vision of death and the afterlife and spirits. Did you feel that your vision of death and of life actually had changed after studying his work and after making the movie?
I think I liked a lot of his ideas. I mean, I wasn't that familiar with him before I read the novel. I knew who he was, and I didn't go down the rabbit hole like we did reading Emanuel Swedenborg for this movie. But I love the idea, and I see why there's the Hudson River School painters that is very much a presence in the movie. I see why they're influenced by him, because he really has this belief that the spiritual world and the natural world coexist, and you can really feel that in nature. And that notion really appeals to me.
And we were editing this movie remotely during the height of the pandemic. And it was a really horrible time, you know, in the early part of the pandemic. It seemed hopeless. And there were so many people dying. And there was something about being surrounded by this sort of metaphysical way of looking at the world and seeing death as like just a continuation of life that was comforting. So it actually was nice to be working on this material during that.
So how do you keep the atmosphere light on set? Can you actually keep the atmosphere light on set when you're filming such an intense and dark movie?
That's a good question. I mean, you know, I think you have to, the actors are living these emotions. You know, it's really hard. And sometimes they need to really express that and feel that and carry it with them. So we try to be respectful as much as possible. And Amanda's very funny because she's so present and so emotional when she's acting, and then she can turn it off in a second and just do the most hilarious thing at the end of a take.
Amanda and James, like, and Alex, they were all like playing jokes on each other, you know, dressing up, and it was like there was a lot of fun. And everybody got along really well. There was a real camaraderie. So I think we laughed a lot on set.
It was a little like summer camp sometimes.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most challenging scene for you, the shoot?
The scene when they fight outside the car was really challenging, you know.
Okay, yeah.
It was very cold. It was very raw emotionally for the actors, and it was a lot to choreograph with the car screeching to a halt and them coming out, making sure it was lit properly. So that was, I mean, that might be a boring answer, but that was it was a tough scene to film, and the actors were fantastic. You know, they really rose to the occasion.
Do you still get scared when filming a movie like that, or are you just caught up in the making, in the script as a filmmaker?
I mean, you are thinking so much about every little detail. It's hard to get caught up, but I have to say, every once in a while, when the actors are just going at it and so good and so raw and so real, that you get emotional, you get scared for them, you get protective of them. So it's almost like insane that you have like 100 people around you with lights, cranes, and you can still feel so caught up in it. And that's just the power of brilliant acting.
Again, I got scared a lot. I'm really happy I've been able to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining me, Shari and Robert, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Nice talking with you.